Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Standing in the Gap, where we are challenged to stand in and close the gap between those who have what they need to fulfill their potential and those who do not. We are so glad you're here. As a matter of fact, I am so glad you're here, I'm going to pay for everyone's parking.
Wow.
My name is David, and I'm the Executive Director of Recovery Café, and I'm proud to introduce my co-MC today, Café member John.
Thanks, David. And I am honored to represent the Cafe's membership today. Recovery Café has been an important part of my recovery journey. I'm so glad you're all here today. I'll pay for your gas.
To start off our program, the Puget Sound Company will share a song.
There are stars in the southern sky, southward as you go. There is moonlight and moss in the trees down the seven bridges road.
Now I have loved you like a baby, like some lonesome child, and I have loved you in the same way. Oh, and I have loved you wild.
Sometimes there's a part of me has to turn from here and go.
Running like a child from these warm stars down the seven bridges road. There are stars in the southern sky, and if ever you decide you should go, there is a taste of time, sweet and honey, down the seven bridges road. There are stars in the southern sky, southwards as you go. There is moonlight and moss in the trees
Down the seven bridges road.
Thank you. You are so gifted, and we know doing this in a time of COVID was a lot more challenging. While all these fabulous people in this Zoom make me so happy, I know there are some people who are no longer with us. Today, we would like to take a moment of silence to honor those who we have lost. That includes Recovery Café members Kathy, Pyron, and Mark, and a funding partner of ours, Jennifer Bliss. In the silence, we also hold the 430 people in King County who died last year of drug and alcohol poisoning. Please join us in a moment of silence for everyone who we dearly miss today. Thank you for helping us create a sacred space.
Hello again, everyone. I am grateful for the Cafe's presence in my life. I first got to know the Cafe when I was sleeping in the Cafe's parking lot. Today, I am the lead on piloting the Cafe's first outdoor 12-step meeting in the Cornish parking lot. Even in these strange times, I'm inspired by how people are coming together to find innovative ways to support each other. In that light, it is a privilege to introduce the visionary leader of Recovery Café, the woman whose dream has been a reality through Recovery Café, Killian No.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. In a very recent survey, 46% of Recovery Café members reported their biggest struggle during COVID-19 has been their mental health. I myself have struggled with increased symptoms of depression since COVID hit. In our recovery circles at Recovery Café, we invite each other into our struggles and joys. Inviting each other into our struggles and joys makes it possible for us to endure pain and to imagine a way forward. At the heart of the Recovery Café model is the truth that we all need a place where we are both deeply known and deeply loved. In addition to having a place of being deeply known and loved, I find it helpful to turn to timeless truths. In all of the world's great spiritual traditions, there is a universal pattern of transformation, which involves movement from order to disorder to reorder, or from life to various forms of suffering or death to rebirth. This pattern is constantly at work in both our personal lives and our collective lives, whether we're conscious of it or not. In the order phase, we feel like we are walking on reasonably solid ground. Then something unexpected and usually devastating causes the ground beneath our feet to shift. This is the disorder phase. Next comes the reorder phase, when a whole new reality arises from the collapse of life as we once knew it. The great spiritual teachers remind us that there are no direct flights from order to reorder. We have to go through disorder or some form of collapse to get to reorder or rebirth. I wonder, what new realities are emerging in your life from the disorder we are all experiencing? I would like to simply name the new realities I see emerging for Recovery Café, for the Recovery Café Network, and for our nation. First, our Seattle Recovery Cafés. When COVID-19 hit, we were forced to find new ways to love and support our members. One of those new ways is our teleconnection program, led by brilliant Ruby Takushi. We've been able to distribute phones to connect with all of our members through one-on-one calls and Zoom recovery circles. And even though we are now returning to in-person circles, the teleconnection program that emerged from disorder will continue to be part of how we provide support. We're also in the process of designing outdoor pop-up cafes More to come on that exciting development. That brings me to what is emerging from the current disorder for the Recovery Cafe Network, made up of 20 recovery cafes across our nation and Vancouver, BC. We have adopted a 6th core commitment to work even more intentionally to end systemic racism and socioeconomic inequality. As you know, the intersection of mental health challenges, racism, and poverty is cruel beyond the imagination. We believe one way we can help transform such cruelty is to spread Recovery Cafe communities that embody unconditional love and reverence for individuals who are often ignored and feared. As Greg Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries, puts it, only when we can see a community where all who are excluded are valued will we abandon the values that endlessly exclude. Finally, what new reality for our nation is rising out of the current disorder? As everyone who has given birth or witnessed a birth knows, the final stage of labor and delivery is the most dangerous, difficult, and painful. The medical term for this stage is transition. Our nation is in transition. This is the moment to birth a society in which we not only talk about Black lives mattering and about how sacred the lives of Black, Indigenous, and all people of color are. This is the moment to birth a society in which all systems reinforce this truth. This is the moment to reimagine all unjust systems that oppress and exclude, all unjust laws, policies, and practices within the housing, healthcare, education, and criminal justice systems. We cannot let this moment of reckoning pass. This is the moment to address the core issues of privilege and power, who has it and who doesn't. A good friend of Recovery Cafe's, Steve Sundberg, says, being white in America is like having the home field advantage at every game where the refs are friendly and all the fans are rooting for you. It begs the question, what does it matter if we gain the whole world and lose our own souls? The late, much-loved John Lewis said, "We all live in the same house." He didn't say we all will live in the same house one day. He said we all live in the same house. People who live in the same house deserve the same privilege, power, and protection. I'd like to close with one more thing I have said at every Standing in the Gap event for the past 16 years that feels more urgent today than ever. We must put our weight down with at least one community seeking to embody the truth that every life is sacred and that we all belong to each other. Because the illusion that some lives are more valuable than others, and the illusion that we are separate from any member of our human family, are the costliest, deadliest illusions of all time. As always, I recommend putting your weight down with Recovery Café. For as we all know, it is not what we cling to, but what we give that makes us fully alive. Thank you for listening.
My name is Leonard, and I am the operational manager at Recovery Café Soto. For the past 15 years, Recovery Café has been a refuge of healing and hope for thousands of people in recovery from the traumas of substance use, mental health challenges, and homelessness. Our community is grounded on the idea that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. We connected with our members through recovery circles, classes, meals, resources, and an abundance of personal connection. Our community has continued to grow with the opening of Recovery Café Soto, which is our second Seattle location in January of this year. When the pandemic started, we moved quickly to find safe ways to serve our members, some of the most vulnerable people in our community. In a flash, we were faced with the challenge of loving and supporting our members in new ways. But a community of love can still thrive without being in person. And one of the first programs we brought back after closing is our recovery circles, including Killian's Circle, where the members share their experiences since the pandemic started.
I'm Dawn, and I'd like to start out with I am in recovery and I have 12 years clean. When the whole COVID thing started, I was really sad because I didn't have my circle anymore. Killian first derived and brought up a Zoom recovery circle. I was really excited and really on board with it. It gives me a chance to connect with the women that I've come to know and love very much.
I've been coming to the cafe since 2004. I've been doing substance abuse recovery since 87, 88, I forgot. Anyway, a while ago. I've been coming to the Recovery Cafe ever since. And so I'm an old timer and I can't say enough good things about it. During the quarantine, it has helped me to practice staying home, staying safe, staying in compliance, doing things that I don't necessarily, doing a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily have put on my book of things to do.
Yeah, so my name is Sarah B. Hi. I can start off with saying I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Like I kind of touched on before, I started coming to the cafe because I needed a safe place to go. Cafe was literally right across the street from where I was living. And some friends of mine, some people I knew and cared about and respected, they kept asking me, why aren't you going to the cafe?
So, my name is Joan. I'm a disabled veteran. I've been in the Army in the 70s and the in the Navy in the 80s, and why I'm disabled is from being violently assaulted when I was in the Army. And I did some physical damage, but the psychological damage is worse than the physical damage. And I've spent the next 40 years of my life getting over it. And I'm in a much better place for being in the Recovery Cafe, and I've lost track of how many years I've been involved with the Recovery Cafe. I don't know, 10 years or something like that.
It's been a rough couple of weeks for me, which you guys know that. For the other people who may be listening, I'm having difficulty going outside, and it's not because I think that I'm going to get sick. It's just an overwhelming anxiety of leaving the comfort and safety of my apartment, which is not something I typically struggle with. From the very bottom of my heart, that if it weren't for the cafe providing this phone that I'm currently using, it's the only reason I'm able to do this Zoom meeting. If it weren't for this phone, things would be a lot worse for me right now.
It's been a really rough week for me too, because I feel like I want to get loaded, and when I share that, it takes the power out of it. It will take away whatever I'm feeling for a little while, but I know that when I come back, I'll lose the very thing that took me years to get, and that was my self-respect.
Feeling a little bit flat on emotions, but knowing that I have a whole bunch of community people with the Recovery Cafe, because I have the circle, I have the contacts that I had in my cell phone before the pandemic separated us all. I have the safe place writing. I'm still doing yoga. I'm not excited. I am excited. Couldn't do it without the cafe, and that's my salvation.
The circles have been a really important touchstone, and the Zoom meetings, given the circumstances, the Zoom meetings are the way to make up for it, and it's working. And so I guess that's something good to say about the cafe, is that my life has been zipping right. Either that or I'm going, getting senile dementia and I don't notice the passage of time. That's also possible. But everybody needs to have a community, an extended family. And they say that, someone famous said it, I forget who it was, that said that, it's George Burns. It's like everybody should have, everyone needs to have a loving extended family in another city.
But it's cool that I can just walk in, I can plop down. In the before times, I could plop down at a table, in usually the faith room, and everybody knows me. We all know one another. We're comfortable with one another, and when somebody comes in from out of town, it's like, oh yeah, dude, please sit in on our circle. And you can tell I'm getting excited because I just said, dude, please come sit in on our circle so you can learn how we run things here, so you can open a cafe in your city. Yes, please sit in with us, because I want to spread this kind of magic anywhere it can happen.
And though they're not in person, the members of Killian's Recovery Circle show their love for each other after each check-in in their own special way. Restarting Recovery Circles is not the only service we're offering to our members. We have launched our teleconnection support almost immediately, distributing phone to our members so we can stay connected with them with one-on-one support. we began distributing meals out of the cafe 7 days a week, where we had distributed over 10,000 lunches and dinners and 2,000 masks. Some of our School for Recovery classes have continued to meet, including our Safe Place for Writers group and virtual yoga and meditation. We also began hosting Resource Connection Days once a month at the cafe, where members can gain access to medical care, COVID testing, masks, foods, toiletries, clothing, and more. We have continued to work with the 20 other cafes across the country and British Columbia who have adjusted their services to meet the needs of the members. We are eagerly awaiting the day where we can be in community in person again, but our commitment to serving those in our community has never wavered, and we will continue to meet our members where they are and help them thrive.
Hi, my name is Sarah B., and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. I'm also dual diagnosis, which is a quick way of saying I have both addiction and mental health diagnoses. So anywho, it was in the fall of 2015 that I first sought serious outpatient treatment for my varied issues. At the time, I was homeless and sleeping in a doorway with my boyfriend. And while I didn't know exactly what I wanted, I knew things had to change because my life sucked. Thankfully, after 5 years of progress and participation in my life, I'm doing much better. I celebrated 4 years clean and sober on August 31st. I live in my own apartment with the same wonderful boyfriend. And mentally, my brain is much easier to manage. From day one, I've learned it's best to consider difficult situations that would cause me to stumble and to have plans in place to address each as they may come. I've always known that the death of my mom would be the one thing capable of derailing me, and I had no way to prepare for it. Well, at least that's what I thought. My mom, Sandy Beckman, AKA the Mommy B, passed away on July 28th, 2020. And I'm still sober, and I haven't resorted to self-harm to cope with the grief. Holy Jesus, shut the front door. What is going on here? Actually, it's quite simple. I've developed a wide-reaching support network, touching each area of my life in which I need help. My favorite is the cafe and my circle. Having the wisdom and unconditional love of these women to remind me each week that everything will be okay, that I won't always be like this, is beyond measure. Because it turns out I had been preparing to deal with the death of my mom. Every time I meet with my therapist or my psychiatrist, every AA meeting I attended and shared in, each week I checked in with my circle, I was bolstering my inner strength and building up my own personal toolbox. Without consciously knowing it, I was learning to live life on life's terms, using the healthy tools picked up each day. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the definition of recovery. So thank you for supporting the Recovery Cafe. Your support of the Recovery Cafe means I am managing my grief in healthy ways. Your support of the Recovery Cafe is saving my life. And now I'd like to introduce Recovery Cafe board member Danny Eagleton.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Danny Eagleton, and I'm a board member at Recovery Cafe. I am grateful for the opportunity to share with you why I am passionate about the healing work of the Café and how you can support this work. We all have a story to share. The idea of recovery, understanding the importance of finding one's own roadmap through trauma and tragedy, is central to my own personal story of losing my mother at an early age and being raised by my father, who struggled with his own grief and alcoholism. It was a very dark time that was riddled with a multitude of emotions that included grief, depression, anger, and fear. My mother was the center for not only me, but for both sides of our family. She held not only our family, but friends, neighbors, and community. I struggled with waves of grief, despair, and depression that engulfed my whole world. What I believed about myself was fueled by what felt like the loss of both parents and my inability to find help and some sort of traction. Through all of it, what held me was my faith and a group that I define as my informal system of care. A non-traditional safety net of neighbors, teachers, friends, and family that created a space for me, who cheered for me, who prayed for me, and provided support. I had spaces that were created for me where I could begin to hear my own voice, learn to create my own rules and narrative. This network saved my life by providing the support that I needed. The search for spaces and places of belonging brought me to the question of what and how do people who have a traumatic background, how do they have a successful life? My career has been grounded in trying to help people to discover the answer to that question for themselves. I have been working in community behavioral health for 22 years and teaching others to work in this field for 16 of those years. I love my work and I love the clients that I have worked with. So it makes sense that this is how I would come to know Recovery Café. My love of the Café comes from working with a shared client who had struggled in his early years. He landed in jail where he received treatment and got connected to the agency that I worked for, where I managed a supported employment program. The client came to the Café before I ever met him. He had moved to our outpatient program and had begun going to the Café, where he got involved in yoga. He found a place where he could be known, a community that embraced him, and space where he could find his center. All of that happened to the client before he ever knocked on my door for employment. Our team found him a job, and he would go on to speak at our agency's gala, 20 years to the day of his first incarceration. This is how I learned about the Café and what it does for its members. I have been hooked on Recovery Café ever since. I know personally and professionally how important it is to have that support in finding one's own center. I know that Recovery Café provides that place for people to find their center, to be known, and become known to themselves. As you have heard, I truly believe in the work of Recovery Café. Today, I want to invite so many of you to continue your wonderful tradition of investing in the Café, and for the rest of you to consider giving today. I am also thrilled to announce that through the kindness of several generous donors and the Ellison Foundation, we have a $200,000 matching gift. We know how much everyone is being asked to give in these uncertain times, and we see this as a way for you to leverage your gift. All gifts of $100 or above, and all pledges, pledge extensions, and pledge increases will be matched. Second, I ask you to consider a multi-year commitment, because a pledge over time allows Recovery Café to plan for the future. Each dollar pledged for next year and the years beyond enable the Café to expand its programs and serve more members in a fiscally sound manner. In essence, your planning makes it possible for the cafe to plan. Next, I want to talk to you about what a gift at each level could represent for the cafe. As Killian shared, we have had to transform the way we bring love, compassion, a sense of belonging, efficacy, resiliency, and life transformation to our community. We can't do it without you. The first giving level is the gift of compassion. $1,000 a year for 3 years. A gift of $1,000 provides 1,250 nourishing meals. Ever since we had to close the cafe as a gathering space, we have served to-go meals every day, and from March until now, we have served over 16,000 meals. If you could pledge $1,000 a year for 3 years, it would be an amazing gift to those on the street who are hungry, not just for food, but for the moment of hope and love when we hand each person enough food for 2 meals every day and provided additional resources. The second level is the gift of transformation, a gift of $10,000 a year for 3 years. A gift at this level empowers Recovery Cafe's teleconnection recovery support program, specifically the cost of cell phone plans for our staff and members who need phones. At the third level is the gift of vision, $25,000 a year for 5 years. Support at this level is the equivalent of providing a resource specialist for 6 months that can walk alongside our members in navigating the ever-changing services landscape to access housing, employment, and other needs. As you can imagine, COVID has upended this world, and we have pivoted to remain a critical resource for our community. One way we have done that is hosting monthly resource connection days that to date have included COVID testing for 128 people, all whose results came back negative. For those of you able to give at these levels, we are grateful beyond measure. Our next level is the gift of hope. What is your hope for Recovery Cafe? On this line, please tell us how much you would like to give and for how many years. Finally, our last level is the gift of radical hospitality. This is the opportunity to give monthly at an amount that you find meaningful. This allows the cafe to have a steady income each month to support members on their recovery journeys. All of you will determine your own level of giving. There is a place for you to enter the gift most appropriate for you. I ask you to open your heart to the most vulnerable among us and stretch to find a gift that feels right to you. Please accept our sincere thanks for the gift you are making today. For those of you who have already pledged your support, we thank you for your trust. If you are able to increase or extend your pledge to help the cafe maximize today's match, Recovery Cafe would be delighted. On the screen and in the chat box is a link to our online giving portal. We tried to replicate the same pledge card as other years. Our staff wrestled with the software to try to create the same pledge card online, but the translation is not exact. If you are making a multi-year pledge, please make sure the pledge duration and annual payment are correct. If you would like to mail your gift via check, the address is in the chat box. If you would like to make your gift through a donor advised fund, or if you're interested in volunteering or becoming part of our Legacy Society, please say so in the comment box on the donation form. On behalf of everyone of the Café community, I want to thank you for the gift you have already given us, the gift of your time. We know how precious that gift is. Now I will turn the program back over to John and David to wrap up.
Again, I want to thank you for being with us today. Now that you've seen a little about the cafe, you can appreciate that this special place would not be possible without the community of individuals who contribute their time, money, and expertise. To every one of them, please hear roaring applause coming from our hearts. We are also honored to have on our call today our sponsors who've covered the entire cost of the event. Our visionary sponsors, Amazon, Holland Partner Group, Freestone Capital, and the Friends of Killian. Our transformative sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, Coldstream Wealth Management, and Columbia Pacific Wealth Management. Our compassionate level sponsors, Vulcan Inc., Wyman Youth Trust, and the Sisters of Providence. Our Hope level sponsors, as well as we want to thank Gobi Productions and Print Time. And of course, we are, as always, eternally grateful to our bridge builders who invited you here today.
We are profoundly grateful to you for being with us today. I believe the Cafe's community of caring brings healing into my life and to everyone it touches. Thank you for helping us make what has been broken whole again and bringing hope and love into the world. To conclude our program, the Puget Sound Company will share one more song. Have a great morning.
5,000 light years from Birdland, but I'm still preaching the rhythm. Long gone uptight years from Birdland, but I'm still teaching it with them. Years from the land of the bird, and I am still feeling the spirit. 5,000 light years from Birdland, but I know people can hear it. Look where I see Badu burning it, burning it, bird heard it, then played it, well stated, Birdland, yeah, Birdland, yeah, yeah. Down them stairs, lose them cares, there, down in Birdland, total swing, Bob was king, there, down in Birdland, Bird would cook, Max would look, where, down in Birdland, Miles came through, train came to, there, down in Birdland, Daisy Blue, Blakey too, where, down in Birdland, Cannonball, played that hall, there, down in Birdland, yeah.
In the middle of that pub, I remember a jazz club where we went to pat feet down on 52nd Street. Everybody heard that word that they named it after Bird, where the rhythm swooped and swirled the jazz corner of the world, and the cats they gigged in that were beyond compare. Birdland, I'm singing Birdland. Birdland, I'm swinging Birdland. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
How well does cats remember the first Birdland gig? To play at Birdland is an honor we still dig. Ooh, Bird, he came and spread the word. Yes, indeed he did. Yes, indeed he did. Yes, indeed he did.
Papa's Weebadoo.
Yes, indeed he really did. Yardbird Parker played in Birdland.
Yes, indeed he really did. Told the truth right down in Birdland. Bird made it. Bird made it. Bird heard it. Then played it. Well stated. Birdland, yeah. Birdland, yeah. There will never be another such as that. you.